Broadcasting live from the Capitol OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America. Seth Merrow in the studio on this Saturday morning. Again, we will reiterate that Belmont at Aqueduct has not canceled, postponed for today. They are going to move today's card intact to tomorrow with the crazy weather they had down there yesterday, certainly. So again, the Belmont at Aqueduct card, no racing in New York today, but that card has been moved to tomorrow. But still plenty of really, really good stakes action from across the country, and we'll talk about some of that this morning a little bit later on. It's a nice stakes card down at Laurel today. And so we'll be joined by Dave Rodman a little bit later on to talk Laurel and the Laurel Stakes. But top of the show, going to be joined now by our friend Howard Kravets from the and Dan, I think you want to close the door in the to the control because I am getting some crazy feedback here. Yeah. Our friend Howard Kravets from the HHH Racing Podcast. I was tuned in a couple nights ago and saw the guys, Paul Haller and Pete Visco and Howard go over the Pick 5 at Santa Anita on this opening weekend. Clearly, there will be some Breeders' Cup implications, so I thought we'd have Howard come in and get some of his ideas on that Santa Anita Pick 5. Howard, good morning. It's the end of the meet. He was in town doing a little extra coverage for the Saratoga Special guys. So it was great to see you guys and have you up there on the show. And for folks who maybe didn't get a chance to tune in then, just remind us, I tell people all the time, I enjoy the HHH Racing Podcast. Like a lot of the podcasts these days, you have the audio side, but there's also a video component. And I watch you guys at night a lot when I'm handicapping on YouTube. But remind people when they can find the new podcasts every week.
Yeah, we have 2 live shows every week, sometimes more. We're going to have more than 2 live shows coming up with all the Breeders' Cup action coming. But Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. Just go to HHH Racing Podcast. You can see on the screen there. And then also Wednesday nights, we have a show called Bettin' and Boozin', which is a combination of horse racing and sports talk. And that starts at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have shows earlier in the week. And again, we're going to be covering the Breeders' Cup like a glove. Very excited. We had several shows this week. We're going to have several shows next week as well. And we also sell Power Picks tip sheet, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little later also. Yeah,
in fact, I'll tee you up to talk about the Power Picks right now. I get the Power Picks page, and it's a lot of fun. There's some picks and play ideas. There are some nice stats on there. And I know during the Saratoga season, you ramp things up a little bit as far as the podcast and the Power Picks. And it sounds like you might be doing the same thing with Keeneland coming up.
Yeah, so for the Keeneland meet, we're going to have a special Keeneland-only Power Picks tip sheet that we're going to be selling on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. We love the Keeneland meet here. And highly recommend people check out the Keeneland-only Power Picks. You can find that on our website, hhhracingpodcast.com. And then we have regular Power Picks where we cover different tracks throughout the country. I heard you talking about Churchill right before I came on. We are covering Churchill today on our Power Picks. And that you can subscribe through Patreon at patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. All of our tip sheet information is on our website, as you can see. Just go to our screen on our website, and you can find out all about it. Very inexpensive, very profitable. We've over almost 3 years now. We have an ROI around $2.40 on our spot plays. And like you said, we also have ABC grids, stats, many other things. You've been very successful, and appreciate everyone's support.
Yeah, you guys do a great job. And again, I tout the podcast. Again, at night I'm handicapping a lot in the office, and I'll have you guys on in the background. It's a lot of fun to listen to previews of some of the big stakes action coming up and recaps of some of the nice stakes in racing as well. You guys do a great job. And that's, again, why I reached out, because when I was listening this week, you were looking at that pick 5 at Santa Anita. And let's jump in and give some thoughts. I pulled up a screen cap of your actual pick 5. And you guys, I know on the podcast, try to keep it at $100 or less. Your actual ticket may be a little bit different the way you play it, but your format on the show, you put together, I think, a $96 ticket. So we'll talk about that play in particular and some of the other horses you might like in some of these races as well. But we'll kick things off. A nice sequence today. The pick 5 includes the stakes action, and it'll kick off in race number 6 with the Santa Anita Sprint Championship. I pulled up a replay going back to the Woody Stevens in June. It's going to be number 3, Arabian Lion, getting it done. Subsequently, Arabian Lion was 3rd in the Allen Jerkins at Saratoga. But Arabian Lion stepping in against Older this afternoon is very intriguing for Bob Baffert. Obviously, Dr. Scheibel, intriguing. The horse that really intrigues me in here is Speedboat Beach, on the comeback off a couple of bullet works for Bob Baffert. This is an intriguing way to start the sequence. What did you see in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship?
Yeah, it's very interesting. This is the horses to see who's going to lose to Elite Power in a month. But anyway, Arabian Lion in this race that we're watching on the screen did what I hope he does today. I think he's better stalking, Seth. Last time he chased a very fast horse and the ill-fated, unfortunately, New York Thunder in the Jerkins. I'm not sure he liked that track either. I'm hoping he just sits off the Speedboat Beach and maybe some others, stalks and pounces, gets the job done here. I'd like to turn back for Arabian Lion also. 2 other things I want to mention in this race. Fort Bragg, there's 3 Bafferts in this race. Fort Bragg, the number 4, who's currently my 3rd choice, but I might upgrade, has been working absolutely outstanding, actually outworking Speedboat Beach, who's very fast and coming back. So I didn't originally have Fort Bragg that high. I had him 3rd. I might upgrade because he's actually been working better than Arabian Lion. But I don't know if the distance is going to be best for Fort Bragg. I've always thought he's better going a little bit further. And then the other horse you got to talk about is Dr. Scheibel, of course, who, listen, we had an absolutely heartbreaking defeat in the Breeders' Cup in 21 against Aloha West. I was there. I just don't know if he's quite as good as he used to be. And he has been facing as tough. When he finished 3rd in the Bing Crosby, I don't know how strong a race that was against the Chosen Braun and Anarchist. These Bafferts are better. So I'm a little bit against Dr. Scheibel as the money line favorite, although I'm using him and he can win. I just have a feeling one of the Bafferts is going to get the job done today.
Yeah, and what was your thought on Speedboat Beach? Because you talk about a kind of a crazy career. We talked about it earlier on the handicapping show. Started the career with that 104 buyer on the dirt at Del Mar, and then I think people were kind of scratching their chins. He goes to the turf for 3 more races, hasn't been seen since last December, and now comes back with the 2 bullet workouts and gets back to the dirt. At 12-1, I think he's intriguing.
Well, there's absolutely no way. I think there's a better chance of the U.S. coming back and winning the Ryder Cup than there is Speedboat Beach being 12-1. But I'm a little tired because I got up to watch the morning session over in Italy, and I don't know why I did, but that's a whole other conversation. Anyway, he's not going to be 12-1, Seth. He's going to be half that. He's fascinating. He's going to have the lead most likely. He is super fast. I just, off the layoff, I'm not sure he's going to be 100% ready to beat some of his older stablemates. But listen, I think you have to use him. He's absolutely fascinating, and he's better. He's a dirt horse. I'm not really sure why Bob decided to put him on turf last year, to be honest.
It was very strange, and then kept him there for 3 years. Yeah, it was interesting. And again, I pulled up from the podcast the other night the play you put up there, the $96 play. There you were going to use the 2 and the 3.
I'm sorry, were you asking about my $96 ticket?
Yeah, and I just said on that ticket you used the 2 and the 3, Dr. Scheibel and Arabian Lion.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, I did. I didn't use Fort Bragg. I have to admit, for everyone listening, watching, especially fans of the podcast, I am going to include Fort Bragg for sure. Obviously, you can see my ticket on the screen. If I add Fort Bragg, I would have to take someone off to make it under 100. But I'm an ABC ticket player. If you aren't familiar with an ABC ticket, you basically weigh your opinions differently so that you can use more horses. And I'm definitely using Fort Bragg as an A or as one of my top choices, despite the fact you do not see him there on the screen in the first leg.
Yeah, and again, which is perfectly fair because you just want to keep it simple on your podcast. The ABC, you've got a whole slew, but I wanted you to be able to mention that Fort Bragg on an ABC kind of play where you have multiple tickets and you can keep a budget that way. You'll use that one. So let's move on to the 7th race. And folks on your ticket, and I'm not disagreeing. You are all over the place in the 7th. State Bred Maiden Specials going 6.5 on the grass. I found in here, I think Sir Prancelot is a little bit interesting as a sire, and he's got a couple in here, the 2 and the 9. And watching the podcast, I think Paul had liked the 9, Sassy Prancelot in here. I think that one's intriguing as well. But what are your thoughts in the 7th, the Maiden Special?
No, I think a lot of people are going to default to D'Amato and Sassy Prancelot. It's sort of a weak field. You mentioned the breeding. The problem with Sassy Prancelot, and we talked about this on the show, is as good as Phil D'Amato is, he's not a first-time out kind of guy. In the last 5 years, Seth, in turf sprints, first time out, how about 7 for 72? He's only 10%. First time out, sprinting on the turf. It's not what he does best. That being said, the horse is bred well and gets J.J. Hernandez, and it's probably going to take money. This is an absolutely wide-open race. And before we move on, Seth, very quickly, believe it or not, they're expecting some rain out in California today. Not a lot of rain, not New York City kind of rain, but they are expecting some rain. So pay attention to how the track will play. I'm sure they'll be on the turf. I just want to mention they are expecting a little bit of rain. Might affect the dirt course a little bit today. But anyway, I'm going to go look at her glide. I think this Papadromo filly is very interesting. She was on the dirt last time, first time out, was 15-1, didn't break great, ran on okay, gets blinkers on, has a B- work also, and the dam is gliding by. It was a horse that you might know, very nice turf horse, and gliding by is out of Artie Schiller. There's smart strike breeding on the top side with the males. So I think look at our glide. I'm going with the price here. I don't have a real strong opinion in this race. I'm going 10, 11, 4. Safa, I think, will be better on the turf. And the number 4, Asada Fries, ran well on turf first time out, was on dirt. Now back to turf. Also very good work there for Asada Fries. The 9, obviously, first time starter can win stuff. This is a complete spread. Yeah. If you see my ticket there on the screen, obviously, I don't have a strong opinion in this race.
Yeah, overall, it's a fun, interesting sequence, but there are some roadblocks in there, and that 7th is one of them. We'll see how that works out. All right, the 8th, the Awesome Again, Grade 1 event, $300,000, 9 furlongs, the trip. I pulled up a replay of the Gold Cup and Defunded getting it done in the Gold Cup. That was the last time Defunded was seen at Santa Anita. Subsequently, a couple of disappointing starts in the San Diego and the Pacific Classic at Del Mar, but potentially getting back to Santa Anita, we rebound to a better effort for Defunded. But National Treasure in here for Bob Baffert is interesting. Stiletto Boy has some nice races underneath. Skinner for John Sheriff's certainly had some promise at points in the career. What are your thoughts in the Awesome Again?
Yeah, the big question here is what do you do with Defunded, right? You mentioned Defunded is 8 for 9 in the money at Santa Anita. Didn't run really well at Del Mar. Maybe he's like an arrogant type, right? Seth who just doesn't like Del Mar and prefers Santa Anita. I don't know. I have some questions on this horse. Maybe he's just regressing. He's going to be a very low price here. I obviously, you can see on the screen, I'm not using him in my top 2, but I will use him underneath in my ABC. Slow down Andy. This horse is getting really good, Seth. I mean, really good. This Calbred finished second 2 back in the San Diego to Senior Buscador, who's also in this race. Has faced very good horses. And last time he ran very well, made a little bit of an early move in the stretch, and maybe the mile and a quarter is just too far. There's no Arabian Nights in here. There's no Go Rocket Rides in here. I see no reason why slow down in. He can win. He's been working very well. And my sort of unusual, or not unusual, but my long shot here is Skinner. I've always been a fan of this horse. He also has been running very well at Santa Anita, of course, in the spring, if you recall, to Practical Move, who was absolutely on fire at that point. Hasn't come back great in his last two. Maybe he wants to be at Santa Anita also, and he's 8-1 morning line. So, although I don't see a lot of release speed in here, Seth, if Skinner fires his best, I think this might be the spot to get a victory at a price.
I like it. And as you say, on an ABC ticket, you would have the funded in the mix.
I'm sorry, I had trouble hearing you, Seth. What's that?
As you said, on an ABC ticket, you would put the funded in the mix.
Yeah, the fund is absolutely in the mix. The fund would be a B as in boy for me. My top choices would be the 2, 3, and 4. On a caveman, I'd probably use them equally, but on a ABC, I think the fund is going to be a B. He's just too low a price for me, Seth, and I have questions on him.
Yeah, I don't disagree. All right, in the ninth at Santa Anita, 6.5 furlongs on the turf, coming down the hill in the Eddie D. I pulled up a replay here going back to January 29th. It's going to be Lane Way getting it done in the Clocker's Corner. Subsequently, after this, only one start. That was at Del Mar, and ran 5th in the Green Flash, but that was off a long layoff. So going back to the Santa Anita start and getting back to Santa Anita, Lane Way is certainly interesting. But listening to the show a couple of nights ago, you liked I'm a Gambler, and I like your thoughts here. And earlier on our handicapping show, my colleague Anthony Mormino, who was going over the card, also liked I'm a Gambler. I think you're onto something, and I think people who don't watch Southern California racing enough, it's an angle worth talking about, coming out of a mile and then cutting back to that downhill on the turf at Santa Anita. I'm a Gambler making that move, and I think you're onto something there, a nice 6-1 on the morning line. Your thoughts on the Eddie D?
Yeah, the appropriately named I'm a Gambler. I'm a big fan of this horse, and has nothing to do with the name, to be very honest. Turnbacks going from a mile to down the hill is an angle that is extremely profitable over the years of Santa Anita. And if you're a fan of Santa Anita like I am, don't we love seeing the down the hill races back?
Yeah.
Which the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint was down the hill, but that's a whole other conversation because they're only going 5 furlongs. I'm a Gambler. When you watch his replay, Seth, and I've watched him run several times, he looms up, he takes the lead top of the stretch. He just quite can't get the job done going a mile. He's lost to the Red Hot du Jour in his last two. There's definitely going to be speed in this race with Noble Reflection, Lane's Way, who, by the way, has a B-plus workout since that last race. So Lane Way, I think, is also live here. I think I'm a Gambler will be absolutely flying late, Seth. Can he get there? Can he handle the hill, which he's never been on? I don't know, but this is one of my price plays of the day. Notice he was sprinting in Europe. So, usually European sprinters can get a mile. Maybe this one can. Maybe this one just prefers a little bit shorter. 6-1, sign me up. I love I'm a Gambler here. One of my best plays of the day.
And the caveman ticket, you were, 4 deep in here?
Yeah, I'm going to use the number 1, who's working well. Balnikov is interesting, and I have a ton of respect for Little Red Feather and Mr. Koch. They know what they're doing. He's been facing tough horses. He's turning back. And if you want speed, I would prefer Lane Way. I think Lane Way is going to set a great trip. I just don't love the speed entirely in this race. I'm going to hope that the race falls apart a little bit. So I'm going to be going 7-1-6. But Lane Way definitely a factor as well.
And then, as I say, you were 4 deep and you used Bran in there. And I think both Pete and Paul on the podcast like Bran, but you include that in some fashion.
Bran's best number, Seth, was 2 back at Kentucky Downs. We know how quirky that track can be. I don't know if he's as good as the others. And again, he's 5-2 morning line. And this is a theme that we talk about on our show a lot. I know you move on. But just because the horse looks obvious doesn't mean you should use them, especially at a low price. And I tend to price shop a little bit.
Yeah, and you make a great point because that number at Kentucky Downs sticks out, and it was at Kentucky Downs. And so it's hard to know how much to buy into that number or whether he just took to that track that a lot of horses don't. So 10th and final today is the City of Hope. It'll wrap up the sequence. I pulled up a replay going back to July 21st at Del Mar. We're going to watch a Twist get it done. Subsequently was 5th in the Del Mar Mile. But I think this race 2 back touts Twist is maybe a little bit intriguing this afternoon. Hong Kong Harry is another horse I know you guys mentioned on the podcast as well. Interesting way to wind up the sequence. Your thoughts in the City of Hope?
Yeah, Twist is another big play for mine. If it comes 7-7, then the sequence, Seth, I'm a very happy man and probably will have an extremely good day in the pocketbook. You saw the last race, Twist ran very well, 2 back, Last time, and we showed the replay on our show, I highly recommend people watch the replay either from our podcast on Thursday or just on your ADW. DeSomo waited a little bit too long on the turn, and then he got himself in a jackpot and took a pretty bad check and steady. Once he got clear in the lane, though, he did gallop out, again, facing De Jour. That's a horse we've mentioned before with I'm a Gambler. And I think he's going to, come off the pace here. And I really like the form that Twist is in right now. It's a 2-horse race to be. Hong Kong Harry, the number 4, is going to be tough if he's ready. I'm assuming they're going to go to the Breeders' Cup with Hong Kong Harry no matter what happens here. He's a very nice gelding, but he's 6 years old. He's coming off a layoff. And Twist has been running. And I like the activity that Twist has shown recently. If he gets the right trip, I think he's got a big shot. He's 3-1 morning line. It's not, a long shot here, but I do think Hong Kong Harry is going to be more like 9-5 in the spot.
And so again, we showed your sequence on the screen a few times, but again, that's just the caveman ticket that you guys use to keep things simple on the podcast as you play. You mentioned some of the B's and C's maybe that might make it into an ABC kind of multi-ticket sequence. So people have an idea of some of the horses that they might want to think about this afternoon. We appreciate the conversation on the Pick 5. Howard, before I let you go, on the podcast you mentioned you got a trip to Keeneland coming up for their opening week.
Yeah, it's very excited going to Keeneland next week. I have some horses with Crownsway Racing here out of the Chicago area. We have a horse called Shards with an S, who's going to be running the Indian Summer Stakes on the Sunday, a week from tomorrow. So I'm going to be at Keeneland next week. It's a fantastic Fall Stars weekend. And then I am going to be at the Breeders' Cup in November. So I've got a busy horse racing schedule coming up of travel, great races. Thanks again for having me on, Seth. And good luck to your viewers and listeners out there. It's going to be a great day despite no racing at New York today.
Yeah, looking forward to it, certainly. Breeders' Cup, are you playing BCBC?
I'm sorry about the Breeders' Cup?
Are you going to play in the BCBC?
I am. I am playing the BCBC, going with the BCBC crew, which is myself, Matt Miller, Brad Anderson, Drew Coatney, those 3 all former winners. I'm going to try to add my name to the list. Kyle Roscoe is going as well, and Patrick Kunzel, and you met both of them in Saratoga. They are on the Betting and Boozing show. So there's a whole boatload of us going to San Anita to play in the BCBC. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, we had a fun conversation with Matt Miller up at Saratoga, too. And speaking of Saratoga and having your horse at Keeneland, I'm rooting for you at Keeneland. That would be a great, 2-3 month period. Stand in the winner's circle at Saratoga and stand in the winner's circle at Keeneland. So I'll be looking for you down there.
Oh, my goodness. Well, also, hey, Seth, real quick, race 4 today at Churchill, Copper Missile. Sorry, there's a horse named Copper Missile in race 4 at Churchill. He's the 3-horse, 7-2 morning line. I also have a small piece of him for Crownsway Racing. Very talented serial surfer. Check it out. I think he's definitely a play, especially anything bigger than 5-2. Copper Missile, race 4, the 3-horse at Churchill Downs.
All right. I am circling it here, my past performances. I'll give it a little shout out on the afternoon handicapping show. Howard, appreciate the visit. And again, keep up the great work on the podcast and with the Power Picks, and we'll talk again.
Hey, thanks a lot, Seth. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Howard Kravets. Nice look at that sequence, fun sequence, opening Saturday of this Santa Anita Fall Meet leading into the Breeders' Cup. And those stakes races will clearly have some Breeders' Cup implications coming up. So, and again, tout checking out. Go over to YouTube and type in HH Racing Podcast, or just type that in to Google, and you'll go to their website, and that'll take you onto the YouTube page and whatnot. That Pete and Paul and Howard do a great job every week. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll do some quick news and notes before we reach out to Dave Rodman. Again, nice stakes day at Laurel as well. We'll talk about that with Dave in a few. But we'll take a break and come back and just hit on, as I say, some of the news and notes of the day. All of that right after this. Stay tuned.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. Again, Saturday afternoon, New York-less this afternoon. And have Dave Grenig's article here. Obviously, they canceled yesterday. If you saw the pictures on the news or social media, it was just crazy in New York yesterday with the rain and flooding. So they canceled racing yesterday. Now, there were a couple of stakes on yesterday's card. The Noble Damsel will come back on October 8th. The Ashley Cole on October 6th. Those will be redrawn. But today's card, there's no racing in New York today, again, with the wet weather. Clearly, there was a situation down in New York. But they've taken today's card and moved it to tomorrow intact. So if you printed up PPs, if you handicap, you're good to go. It's just going to move to tomorrow. Same situation with the scheduled Sunday card. That's now been moved to Wednesday, but that remains intact as well. But we'll keep our fingers crossed as far as weather and whatnot, that everything holds up nicely for tomorrow. Because, again, today was a nice big stakes day in New York, and that will all go again on tomorrow. We hope it weather-wise holds up for those nice stakes. Because, again, this time of year, these big stakes clearly will have some Breeders' Cup implications. So you hope everybody gets out of it what they need. Mentioned this earlier on the handicapping show. Came out yesterday. Kind of been waiting for this after, the Pennsylvania Derby card last week, the Greenwood Cup, the marathon event, which next it might have been the most impressive performance on the card. Saudi Crown was certainly good, but it might have been the most impressive performance. Next, who has become just a top quality marathoner, runs away with it. But as I said earlier, as they panned away from next to next going to the finish line, Riding with Biden was a very clear second. No challenge to the winner, but very clear second. So then they pan to the finish line. Next goes by the finish line, and then Riding with Biden gets caught at the finish line with clearly Paco Lopez standing up. And I said, as we watched it live, I said, man, if you had the exacta with Riding with Biden, you've got a legitimate complaint. And subsequently, the park stewards did give Paco Lopez 30 days for, and I'm quoting from the article here, quote, failure to give his best effort and failure to use proper diligence, unquote, while riding with Biden. Got caught by a long shot at the wire. But again, next at 1 to 5 was offering not a lot of value. So you would have to think some people are maybe finding value. Well, I'll put it with riding with Biden. The second choice, get a little exacta there. Oof. And then Dave Grenig was at Parks for the racing forum, and his follow-up to this, his recap of this stake said the trainer of riding with Biden, I guess, had some words with Paco right after the race. And Dave said, neither had any comment subsequently, but he could see there was a discussion between the two. It was a $19,000 difference between second and third. So it cost certainly the owners and the team a little something as well. But it was clearly worth the stewards taking a look and taking some action, and they took serious action with Paco Lopez getting a 30-day suspension. It began a couple of days ago on Thursday. It goes through October 22nd. And Grenig in the article said, noted through Thursday, Paco Lopez ranked second in wins among all the North American jockeys this year with 225. He also the leading rider this past summer at Monmouth with 75 wins. He has 75 wins at Parks. So I guess kind of on days off, he's popping over there. Had him in 5th place, and he had 6 wins from 10 mounts. Monmouth at the Meadowlands meet, so doing well there also atop that. So this will affect, obviously, his business, as he will be on the sidelines for 30 days after that. It's just kind of inexplicable. I said earlier on the handicapping show, if you didn't see it, I think it was Grenig's tweet. I think he tweeted out his article yesterday. But the replies to the tweet, one of the first ones was from Chantel Sutherland, who said, gee, this seems unfair because, it was a marathon race and he just didn't have any horse left, and you don't want to push the horse and maybe have a horse get hurt. And nobody wants that. But I don't think he would have had to persevere in some detrimental fashion to hold second place. He was clearly way ahead, as I say, when the camera panned, and didn't have that far to go, and then just got caught by standing up. And so I respect the thoughts of an actual jockey, which I am not. But I thought, I'm not quite sure I'm buying he couldn't have held on to second without taxing the horse at all, really. So, again, given the situation, and it was so out there and obvious coming right under the finish line, I think we were all waiting to see what the stewards will do, and they took major action there. And I also noted, I pulled up the article here on my computer. We'll see what happens, but it was for racing west of the Mississippi, Golden Gate notably closing, and Turf Paradise looked like they were on the way out, as well as a deal with the current owner and a potential new owner had fallen through. But according to a Matt Hegarty article in the Racing Forum yesterday, a new buyer came forward. I guess they're right in the midst of a deal. And it sounds, like I say, almost too good to be true. And I think in the racing industry, we've seen these kind of things happen before. I'll wait. I'll take a little bit of a wait and see attitude, but have our fingers crossed. This potential now new owner who just came forward in the last few days is talking about putting a lot of money into the track and continuing racing. We'll see. As I say, I think we've seen stories like this over the years where, wow, this is great, and then things don't quite work out that way. But we'll see. As I say, fingers crossed, because you don't like to see a racetrack close, particularly again on that West Coast Southwest area where they're already kind of slim pickings out there. And I think it's better for racing when there are a number of circuits going. I mentioned earlier up here in the Northeast, you see horses bouncing back and forth. You see horses from Laurel over at Parks, and Parks at racing at Belmont at Aqueduct. And I think that's better for the racing game. And we were kind of losing tracks out there on the West Coast that was making that a little bit of an island unto itself, which I don't think is necessarily very good. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, as noted earlier, Dave Rodman will join us from Laurel. They have a really nice steak day down there as well. We'll hit on some of the steaks with Dave right after this. Stay tuned.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, joined now by Dave Rodman. And I will note for people, earlier as well, you heard Howard having a little trouble. We're having a little trouble with the phone. So Dave, if you don't hear me, feel free to say, can you ask that again? Because it seems like I hear you guys fine, but you guys are having a little trouble hearing me perhaps. But happy to be joined by our friend Dave Rodman. Haven't talked to Dave in a while. Dave, good morning.
Hey, Seth, I'm working through some audio problems with my phone here, but I think I can hear you well enough to do this. Hope you can hear me.
All right, we hear you fine. Like I say, I think the problem somehow on our end getting out to the guests, because we had a little trouble earlier as well. But as I say, I haven't talked to you in a while. Give us a little update. What's been up in this summer? I'm always curious. We've had a couple of guests on from the Maryland circuit. Timonium, what's it like announcing at Timonium? Do you get distracted by the Ferris wheel?
The Timonium meet, yeah, it went great. Handle was really, really up at Timonium. Usually they'll bet like 500,000, 400,000, and Timonium, just about every day we did 700,000 on track, or close to 700,000 in Maryland all total. So very nice meet.
What's it like announcing down there? Do they have a nice location for you?
At Timonium?
Yeah.
Location, yeah, it's perfect. I mean, you can almost call it out binoculars there. It's a bull ring.
Very good. All right, let's get into a nice stakes day down at Laurel today. Let's kick things off with the Salima. 2-year-old fillies going 1.16 miles on the ground. Oh, before we get into it, what's the weather look like down there today?
Weather cloudy, temperature nice, about 70 degrees. Just really perfect for racing, no glare. Track is fast. So listen, your turf is good. Did not run on the turf yesterday. It looked fine, like we could have run on it, but they were saving it for the big races today. 1.5 miles to Japan Cup, Japan Turf Cup, and others on the grass today. Salima Laurel Futurity. And it looks in fine shape for this 4-day-a-week stretch that we have coming up in October and November, including Maryland Million. So the track's in great shape after the break at Timonium and going to Pimlico. So with the turf course, weather permitting, I think is going to last quite a while. We get some great grass races, which I think is a relief to a lot of people on the East Coast.
Yeah, no question about it. Certainly up here in Saratoga, it was a rough summer weather-wise. But the Salima is scheduled 8.5 furlongs on the grass. I pulled up a replay going back to Saratoga early August where there was some grass racing, and Brock Nardini won. I liked this effort. Subsequently went up and disappointed in the Natalma. And I'll tell you, if you look at the trouble line in the Natalma for Brock Nardini, it says hop start. That wasn't that bad. But then it talks about bump. And Brock Nardini did get absolutely crushed in the stretch in the Natalma. I'm giving Brock Nardini a little bit of a pass. Hope maybe that one darkens the form a little bit and we can get some value. I think Brock Nardini is interesting. Positive Carry, Carmelina. Fun race. What did you see in the Salima?
Brock Nardini made my watch list as soon as she broke her maiden at Saratoga. Thought she was a talented horse, and the question mark was stakes winner, question mark. And then they brought her up to Woodbine with a kind of a troubled trip there. Maybe discount that, but she's kind of coming back here from September 16th now, kind of quick. I kind of looking at Yaba in this race, who last race September 7th at Kentucky Downs, on a good track. The track's got a little give in it after heavy rains last weekend here in Maryland as we got brushed by the storm. Can sit a good trip off the pace. She seems to be an improving filly. Yada for Graham Motion, and Jorge Ruiz, I think one of the most underrated riders in the region when it comes to turf here. I mean, I've seen him put in some just ace rides on grass horses, and you can see why Graham Motion's reaching out here to Jorge Ruiz, who rides a lot of his horses up at Delaware Park and has had a lot of victories with them together. Good jockey-trainer combination there at 26% together.
Yeah, I have that one in the mix as well. I think Yada's very, very playable coming off the maiden breaker at Kentucky Downs for a mere $156,000. The 8th race today, the Japan Turf Cup, you mentioned earlier, 1.5 miles for 3-year-olds and up. I pulled up a replay here of which replay? Oh, Bear Oak. And we're going to look at Saratoga. Bear Oak is going to be the number 4 horse here. And off of this win for Norm Cassie, I thought Bear Oak was going to be a little bit intriguing this afternoon. But I put Yamada on top for Mike Maker. I think that one, obviously being a Mike Maker trainee, is very playable. Karamanos on board. What were your thoughts in the Japan Turf Cup?
Yeah, we're kind of leaning the same way, but I'm going to like a Bear Oak in this spot for 3 in a row. Timely claim, won at 1.25 miles on the dirt at Saratoga, and a photo finish there by a head. Came back at Saratoga on the turf again. Another distance, improved his number. A winner out of that race already in cross border. I think he's going to be a perfect fit in this spot. And again, Ruiz in the saddle on the grass for Norm Cassie. So I think a timely claim there. Yamato's interesting because he was beaten by the other maker in the race, if I recall, right? Red Run at Churchill Downs. And that horse had the toughest of tough trips, extreme outside post almost, had to gain position while wide. And I thought, well, by the time they got to the first turn, that's going to cost him the race. Well, not only did he win, but Yamato ran right up to him, and he dug in to win in a Gallon performance. That was a kind of a top performance for makers Yamato at the age of 6. Can he come back and repeat it? That's the question. And here, this is not an easy field, I don't think. I mean, you've got the 8-time winner, Eons, the 7-year-old, who's won 2 of those 8 here at the Laurel Turf Course. He loves Laurel, and he's run some big bang-up races in here. Just when you least expect, game victory in the Prince George's County. So age is not a factor for him. He's still going strong with back-to-back solid efforts. And I think his best race in recent times has been right here over this track, going 9 furlongs. Got a stretch today, but with his class, it shouldn't be a problem. Kind of a long shot sleeper I have in here. Greg Sacco's got 2. It can be done, who hasn't won it in a long time. Who's only won a couple of races. But Ocean's Map is interesting. The race at 1.5 miles that's buried in his form looks good off the running line, and he comes out of a race at Monmouth, won by St. Anthony, who came back to win the Red Bank with a good figure as well. He's kind of a sleeper horse to me. I'm going to use him underneath in exactas maybe with whomever you like, and maybe in triples too on the bottom.
I like it. Very good. All right, let's move on to the 9th, the Twixt. I kind of went master of the obvious here. Brad Cox brings in Interstate Daydream, who I have always felt was kind of at the bottom of the top tier of fillies and mayors. Last year 3-year-old fillies, and this year fillies and mayors. Not maybe at amongst the top, but not far behind. And we're going to look at the DuPont at Pimlico back in May. Interstate Daydream is going to be the number 2 horse. Subsequently, a 2nd and a 3rd in some stakes at Thistledown and Ellis. But again, this is the winner of last year's Black Eyed Susan. I just think maybe Interstate Daydream outclasses this bunch. But I thought Hybrid Eclipse was interesting. Battle Bling for Mike Dubb and company could be intriguing. What are your thoughts in the Twixt?
Short run into the first turn in 1 mile and 16th here at Laurel. Now, there are a couple of scratches. Post 9 bringing her in a couple of spots to breaking from 7. But still, if you're inside going around that first turn with some tactical early speed, sometimes you have a bit of advantage trying to race over this track. I see why they're bringing Interstate Daydream back to Maryland. They've had success with her, winning the Grade 2 Black Eyed Susan, winning the Laird DuPont this year at Pimlico as well. And she's a very, very consistent horse. And Brad Cox has already stated that he's going to try to get her closer to the pace. And maybe part of that is post position. Maybe part of that is a little shorter distance at the 1 mile to 16th. She needs to be closer to the pace. I'm going to take a little shot here with Battle Bling. Rob Atras, kind of cold in New York as of late, but a giant stat for Atras runners, including a recent win at Pimlico and ship-ins here. He's going strong with a positive ROI. Rested up Battle Bling has since the July 8th race at Delaware, beaten 32 lengths behind Idiomatic. And throw out that race. It's her 2nd race back after that break from February. She has tactical early speed, and I think she's gone right to the front or near the front of the speed of Malibu. I keep getting my Malibu horses mixed up. Malibu Beauty racing down to the inside there for Gary Capuano. Can't get the distance. I think she's a little bit better sprinting or 7 furlongs, but if they're let her alone, she could be dangerous in the spot. I think Malibu Beauty is going to try to make the lead. Battle Bling will be close by, and they're going to have to try to hustle Interstate Daydream up. But that price, though, maybe I'm going to include her on a ticket or 2, but I'm taking a chance here.
I like it again. And we wrap up the stakes action, the Laurel Futurity. It's been on the turf now for a while and leads into, I love the subdivision of the 3-year-olds on the turf, and this kind of helps define who maybe we watch in that subdivision next year, as this is 2-year-olds on the turf. I pulled up a replay here against Saratoga, middle of August. It's going to be the number 3, Dancing Mischief. And I have Dancing Mischief on top in here for George Weaver, who's having a very good year. The New York bred, though, you mentioned it in the previous race. It's hung outside. I may be up against it, but I thought if the morning line holds up, at least I'm getting the right odds to take a little pop with Dancing Mischief. What are your thoughts on the Futurity?
Hey, you may not get that double digits for sure. And looking at the field, Air Recruit, I think, is a play in this spot. I know he's only had 2 races, both sprints at Colonial Downs. He's by Air Force Blue out of the Arch Dam Werewolf, who was a winner going long. I don't have it in front of me. I looked at it this morning. I think it was at 1 mile and 3:16. So on the M side, the pedigree to run all day. I think he's got enough speed to stay close. Hopefully, I don't want to see him go to the front, but I think maybe if he can use some relaxed speed to stay close in the spot, he's going to be tough. Tropenhagen's an interesting horse here, the Marshall Ye colt, who battled hard on the lead every step of the way. And what a gear he had at Monmouth for that mile in the debut and winning first out. Very visually strong kind of race there for Tropenhagen, and I'm going to use him on the ticket as well. I think kind of an open race. Maybe Tropenhagen Air Recruit and using Dancing Mischief. I think maybe that's the 3. Can't really split them, so box them.
I like that as well. And again, Laurel Futurity wrapping up stakes action on a really nice stakes day down at Laurel. So, Dave, appreciate the visit. We wish you and everybody a great day down there, and we will talk again.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said happy to have you on, and we'll talk again in the future.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's been a long time, so we'll catch up maybe closer to Merrill Million Day, too.
Sounds good. Dave, appreciate it. Dave Rodman from Laurel Park. Again, a nice stakes day down there, nice stakes day at Churchill, nice stakes day out at Santa Anita. So there's plenty of action, even with New York on the sidelines today, with, again, their card being moved to tomorrow because of the crazy weather they had down there. Otherwise, we will wrap it up. I do want to remind you one more time before we do wrap it up this morning that tomorrow, big race early in the morning with the Group 1 ARC, one of the top races in the world each and every year. The ARC from Longchamp will be just a little after 10 o'clock. So Racing Across America tomorrow, we'll start the show. We'll kind of lead into the ARC, then we'll watch the ARC and continue on after that. But the ARC is tomorrow here at the Clubhouse Racebook. We will open at 9 a.m., so an early start here at the Racebook. There'll be complimentary donuts and coffee, so keep that in mind for ARC Day tomorrow, early opening at the Clubhouse Racebook. If you can't make it down here, you can watch all the action here on OTB TV, bet via capitalotbbet.com, so keep that in mind. The ARC tomorrow, Sunday. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for this edition of Racing Across America. Seth Merrow in the studio. Again, really appreciate your tuning in. As always, we'll be back in, as usual, about an hour and a half or so for, I'm just kind of looking to check. Churchill today will kick off at 12:45. Laurel will kick off at 12:25. So, yeah, we'll be here to take a look at that opener at Laurel because I'm going to have some Laurel and Churchill action this afternoon. So with 12:25 kicking off at Laurel, we'll be back sometime after noon. So a couple hours, no, an hour, a little over an hour away for OTB Live for Saturday afternoon. Look forward to seeing you then. But we appreciate you tuning in this morning. Enjoy the rest of your morning. And again, fire things up as we'll be back in just about an hour or so for OTB Live for a Saturday afternoon. We'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.